Hey all, welcome back for another wild ride on Nuclear Revenge. We've got 3 mind-blowing stories just for you today. If you're into this kind of stuff, hit that like button and subscribe to make this channel even better. This first story's titled Brother Turns on Brother. Blood is supposed to mean something. That's what they all say, don't they? Blood's thicker than water. Family first. Look out for your brother. But blood, I've learned, is just another thing that stains. My name's Colt. Born and raised in a dying town no one outside the county line could point to on a map. My brother's name is Mason. He was always the golden one, smart, smooth, the kind of man who could lie straight through his teeth and still get offered a beer afterward. Me, I was the worker, the fists, the fixer. I got out of school and straight into construction. Never had time for charm. We weren't close, but we weren't enemies. At least, I thought so. Until Dad died. The old man didn't leave much, a small property, some land, and a piece of crap truck he refused to upgrade. No savings to speak of. What he did leave behind was a small business, just a shed and a trailer yard he ran for decades. Repairs, haul-outs, welding work. It was barely scraping by, but it was something he wanted us to have. In his will, it was clear. The land goes to both sons. The business goes to Colt. Simple. Fair. I ran the damn thing for the last 5 years while Dad got sicker and sicker. Mason never lifted a wrench, and that's when the rot began. Mason showed up at the funeral in a suit he couldn't afford, acting like he'd been next to Dad's deathbed the whole time. Told the pastor stories that didn't happen, hugged people he hadn't spoken to in years, played the grieving son while I kept my mouth shut, and buried the only man who ever had my back. A week later, he sat me down at the bar and told me his plan. We sell the land, he said. Split the cash. You can keep the business if you want, but the land's worth at least 200 grand to a developer. I got someone lined up already. I stared at him, thought he was joking. This land's been in our family since Granddad built the house. You want to tear it up for what, a quick payday? Mason didn't even flinch. We're not farmers, Colt. No one's living out here in 20 years. It's just weeds and debt. I told him no. He pushed. I told him again. 3 weeks later, a city official showed up with a notice. The business had been flagged for code violations, improper permits, old structures not up to spec, noise complaints, water runoff issues. Things that don't happen unless someone files a detailed, coordinated complaint. Mason had done his homework. I lost my license to operate for 60 days. My clients pulled jobs. My accounts dipped into the red. That's when I knew this wasn't a disagreement. It was a war. So I prepared like it. Mason still lived 3 counties over, in a nice rented house he couldn't afford, with a girlfriend who thought he owned oil fields. I drove out once, late at night, just to see. There was a for sale sign in front of his place, but not from a realtor, from a bank. He needed money badly, and the land was his ticket out. I went quiet after that. Didn't respond to his calls, didn't bite when he tried to bait me into another sit down. I let him think I was folding, let him stew in silence. Meanwhile, I cleaned up the business, brought in a lawyer, cleared the violations, paid out of pocket to modernize the shop, quietly transferred ownership to an LLC. But I made one critical move Mason didn't know about. I filed a partition action. See, if 2 owners can't agree on what to do with shared land, the court can force a sale or let one buy out the other. But here's the trick. The land's value depends on use. So I did some adjusting. I hired a few friends with heavy trucks to accidentally spill oil near the back fence, had them dig a foundation and then abandon it halfway, dropped some rusted metal and trash across the far side of the property, cut down a few trees without permits. By the time the assessor came through, the property looked like a half-abandoned junk lot. Contaminated soil, he muttered, improper use of residential land, non-compliance with zoning ordinances. He valued the land at just under $38,000. Mason's developer ghosted him. The bank did in single quotes. He was desperate, agitated, came to the shop, fists clenched. You did this, he growled. You sabotaged the land. I just looked him in the eye. Calm. Still, you tried to burn me first. I just made sure I had a fire extinguisher. He lunged. I didn't move. One of the crew stepped between us. Mason left, shaking with rage. I thought that was the end, but it wasn't, because Mason wasn't finished. And neither was I. Mason didn't go quiet. He never did. After our blow-up at the shop, I figured he'd lick his wounds and vanish like he always had, find a new con, a new woman, a new excuse to run from his failures. But instead, he came at me harder. One Monday morning, I rolled up to the shop and found the front windows smashed in, my tools scattered, some gone, graffiti across the trailer door. Thief. Cops took the report but didn't give a damn. Small town law. They asked if I had any enemies. I said, just one. The next week, my bank froze my account over suspicious activity. Someone had tried to transfer 15 grand to an unverified account with a fake ID using my name. They nearly pulled it off. Would have too, if I hadn't already flagged my name for fraud watch. The bank caught it in time, but the message was clear. This wasn't about the land anymore. It was personal. I called Mason. Didn't scream. Didn't curse. Just told him I was done playing. You always were slow, he said. Took you this long to figure it out. Click. That was the last civil word we ever spoke. A week later, I got a call from CPS. Man using my name and address had filed a complaint, claimed I was running illegal side jobs, had minors working in the yard, possibly unlicensed firearms on the property. Cops rolled in again, checked my permits, scanned my ID. I cooperated, because everything was clean. I'd made damn sure, but my blood boiled cold. Mason had come after everything I had. My business, my name, my life. So I hit back, hard. I knew Mason's weak points. I'd grown up with them. I knew the woman he was cheating on, knew about the other apartment in the next county. I even knew he had a second phone registered under a fake name. All of it was in the records I'd gathered during the lawsuit, buried under layers he thought I'd never bother to read. I made a file, a pretty one. Photos, receipts, messages. Then I sent it to 3 places: the woman he lived with, the woman he lied to, and the HR department of the company where he'd lied on his job application about his felony. Rest from 2012. It took 2 days. The girlfriend kicked him out, changed the locks, and posted the ring footage of him screaming at her door. The other woman showed up at his work and threw a brick through his car window. His job gone. He called me that night. I know it was you, you twisted piece of. I hung up. Did in single quotes to say a word, because this wasn't about yelling. This was about extraction. I filed one final motion, a petition for buyout. The court approved it. Based on his financial instability, I bought his half of the land for $19,000 cash. Hand delivered it to him, wrapped in a ribbon. He opened the envelope, jaw twitching. You think you won? He spat. I didn't smile. I didn't win. I said, I survived you. He didn't answer, just stood there, empty and angry. A week later, he left town. Don't know where he went, don't care. I bulldozed the trailer yard, cleaned the soil, planted trees over the scars, started fresh. Every morning I walked the perimeter, coffee in hand, and let the silence tell me what I already know. Sometimes blood doesn't bind, sometimes it rests. And when it does, the only thing you can do is cut it loose. This next story is titled The Predator Teacher Exposed. When I was 16, I trusted a man who didn't deserve it. His name was Mr. Halbrook, my history teacher. The kind who wore corduroy jackets and quoted dead philosophers like they were prophets. He ran the debate team, wrote college recommendations, and handed out fatherly advice like Halloween candy. Students adored him. Parents trusted him. The school board practically worshipped him. And he picked me, said I was sharp, said I could go far, said he'd help me get out of this suffocating town if I just followed his lead. I did everything he asked. Late-night research sessions, trips to competitions in other counties, long talks in empty classrooms. At first, I thought he saw something in me no one else did. Then I found out what he was doing to Maya. She was 15, quiet, bright in that fragile way glass can be, sharp edges hidden behind soft eyes. I only saw it because I stayed late to grab a folder I left behind, walked past the closed office, and heard her crying. I didn't burst in, didn't demand answers. I stood there, hand frozen on the doorknob, listening as he told her it was Just between them, I left that night sick, told my mom. She called me dramatic. Said Mr. Halbrook was a good man, helped her out when Dad left. Said I should be careful throwing around accusations. Maya dropped out the next month. No explanation. No investigation. She was gone. And he kept teaching. So I did nothing. That's the part that still burns. I did nothing. But I remembered. I carried it with me through college. Through the bitterness of leaving town while he stayed behind, still celebrated, still smiling in photos next to kids who didn't know better. And then, 10 years later, I came back, not by choice. My younger sister, Em, called me crying. Said she didn't feel safe. Said a teacher kept texting her, asking to meet after hours. I asked her who. She whispered the name like a curse. Halbrook. I hung up the phone and started the car that night. By the time I crossed the county line, I knew exactly what I had to do. This time, I wouldn't freeze. I wouldn't tell anyone. I wouldn't call the police. I would dismantle him. Not in the open. Not with headlines. No. I single quotes destroy him from within. Piece by piece. Until everything he built collapsed under its own rot. Because justice isn't always a verdict. Sometimes it's a reckoning dressed in silence. I didn't come back to town with a plan. I came back with resolve. That first night, I sat in my childhood bedroom walls still yellowed with age, posters half peeled from another life, and stared at my sister's phone. The messages were there, not outright explicit, but that's the trick, isn't it? The language of predators is suggestion, not confession. You've got potential. Let's go over your college plan one-on-one. I can help you stand out. You remind me of a student I used to mentor, Maya. I opened my laptop and started building the file. I knew Halbrook's patterns because I'd lived them. I knew where he worked, when he stayed late, which students he singled out, how he positioned himself just close enough to be irreplaceable, and just far enough to be untouchable. Over the next 2 weeks, I went to work. I shadowed the school, showed up early, left late, sat in on classes as a visiting alum, something no one questioned once I dropped Halbrook's name at the front office. He looked surprised when he saw me. Flinched, just a little. I smiled back. Just back in town, I said. Thought I'd see how the old place was doing. He gave me a hug I didn't return. I met students, spoke to staff, smiled, listened. Watched. And I found them. 3 girls, 1 boy, different years, same script. I didn't pressure them. Just let the silence grow until they filled it. Hints, shivers, that look of shame they didn't earn but carried like debt. I didn't need their stories to go public. I just needed enough to burn the roots. With their permission, I compiled screenshots, testimonies, and security footage. I traced public records, found odd disappearances like Maya that the school never explained. I pulled archived yearbooks, cross-referenced names. Built a timeline, the grooming, the proximity, the dropouts. Then, I turned to the technology he relied on. You can learn a lot from a man's computer, especially if he never learned how to lock it. Halbrook was a creature of habit. Same passwords, same email tags, same folders mislabeled as debate materials and senior prep. I got in during one of his planning periods, under the guise of asking for his college recommendation template for him. He left me in the room with his laptop. That was the last mistake he ever made. By midnight, I had everything. Photos, chat logs, drafts of messages he never sent, ones that peeled away every excuse he'd ever built. I didn't call the police, not yet. I called the school board, privately, anonymously. Sent them the file. Then I sent a copy to the state licensing board. Then, another to the local news station, the one that always sang his praises during graduation. Then I waited. 3 days later, the news broke. Not loud, not immediate, but like a crack in glass, it spread fast. Veteran teacher under investigation for misconduct. Allegations surface involving inappropriate behavior with multiple students. Halbrook didn't show up to work that Friday. By Monday, his photo was taken down from the debate team's wall. No rest. Not yet. He was too careful, too calculated. But the system he fed on, it turned on him. One parent pulled their kid. Then another. Staff stopped speaking his name. Former students came forward, not many, but enough. He resigned within a week for personal reasons. Gone. Not disgraced publicly, not yet. But rotting in silence, I saw him once more. At the grocery store. Pale, smaller, like a suit deflating around bones. He saw me. And knew. He turned away. I didn't follow. Because I was done. I went home. Hugged him. Told her it was over. She asked if he'd been arrested. I said no. She frowned. Then how? Do you know it's really over? I looked at her calm, steady. I never saw Halbrook again, but 2 weeks after he resigned, I read a blurb in the local paper, man struck in late-night hit-and-run, critical spinal injuries. No suspects. It didn't say his name. Didn't need to. I recognized the photo. He was trying to leave town, quietly. Probably thought he could outrun what he'd done. He didn't make it to the bus stop. He survived. But he won't walk again. They erased him faster than I ever could. Now, he sits somewhere, alone, forgotten. She sleeps through the night now. That's the only justice I ever needed. This last story is titled The Neighbor from Hell. I'm not a man who looks for fights. I'm not loud. I keep my yard clean. I nod politely at neighbors. I don't throw parties or blast music. I work long hours as a mechanical consultant, mostly alone. My peace is earned, and I protect it. But peace dies fast when the wrong people move in. They arrived in a silver truck and a cloud of noise. The husband, Beck, was tolerable, the quiet type, always looking down at his feet, probably from years of learning how to survive the woman who followed him. Her name was Cheryl, and if you've ever wondered what bitterness would look like if it grew legs and screamed at the mailman, that was her, within the first week of moving in. She'd already screamed at a teenage girl for stepping on her sidewalk and called the recycling guy a lazy bum because he left their bin half an inch crooked. I watched it unfold from my porch and made one simple decision: avoid her. Then one evening, she made that impossible. I had parked my car at a 97 Impala. I'd restored myself in front of my own property. As always, I was gathering tools from the trunk when I heard her voice slice through the dusk. "You've been parked there every damn day," she snapped. "Move it or I'll have it towed. My husband needs space." I looked up slowly, calmly. "I'm on my side of the line, Cheryl," she scoffed, arms crossed. "You think just because you wear glasses and don't talk much, you can lurk around and intimidate people? I think you should go inside." That was it. Nothing more. No curse, no threat. But something in my stillness flipped the switch. She stormed toward me, finger jabbing the air. She hurled every crude word she had, called me a creep, a pervert, a loner, said I gave her the wrong kind of vibe. I didn't say a word, just stared. She finally stormed off, but not before dragging her keys across the side of my car. A slow, deliberate scratch, like she was marking territory. I filed a police report, gave them my footage, because of course I had cameras, front yard, driveway, audio and all. Doug came over the next day and apologized with his eyes. Couldn't even look straight at me when I showed him the footage. "I'll cover it," he muttered. "Please don't press charges." I didn't, because I had other plans. But Cheryl wasn't done. 3 days later, I got served. Harassment suit. She claimed I'd been stalking her. Said I lingered near their fence. Said I followed her at the grocery store and muttered threats through her mail slot. Lies. Every last word. And somehow, she'd convinced someone to file it. That's when I stopped trying to be the better man. She thought I was a loner. Fine. Let's see what a loner with time, tools, and a taste for meticulous vengeance looks like. The first court date was a farce. Cheryl showed up in oversized sunglasses and a neck brace, like she'd walked off a soap opera. Her lawyer, the half-interested local type, repeated the same fabricated phrases: pattern of intimidation, emotional distress, fear for personal safety. I didn't flinch. Just handed my lawyer a hard drive with 3 weeks of time-stamped footage. Me walking from my car to my house. Me trimming hedges. Me sipping coffee on my porch, not once setting foot near her property. The judge looked irritated before lunch. The case was tossed before the coffee cooled. I should have left it there, but I didn't, because Cheryl wasn't just a loud nuisance anymore. She was a malicious liar who tried to weaponize the law. She'd keep my car, smeared my name, and smiled while doing it. So I did what I do best. I rebuilt. Not the car, the situation. First, I talked to the homeowners association, quietly. Submitted documentation of her behavior, threats to neighbors, complaints from delivery drivers. That time she screamed at a kid for skateboarding near her driveway. I had timestamps, screenshots. One even showed her dumping trash over a neighbor's fence. The whole fined her 3 times in 2 months. She contested every one. She lost every one. I reached out to Doug's employer. How? Simple, a sticker on his company van gave it away. A quick check showed he worked in logistics for a mid-size warehouse 2 towns over. I sent an anonymous tip, included the court filing and public police report, mentioned unprofessional conduct by family member reflecting on the company's image. A week later, his van disappeared. He started leaving home in his old Nissan. No more uniform, no more early hours. But Cheryl, she kept barking. So I went for her oxygen. Social reputation. I made a burner Facebook account, a generic-looking local woman, posted politely in a neighborhood group, asking, has anyone else had strange run-ins with the woman at her address? The responses poured in. Stories about screaming fits, property damage, verbal abuse. Within days, she became a joke. The angry neighbor, drive-by Cheryl. Someone even photoshopped her face onto a Halloween lawn ornament. She deleted her profile within a week. But I wasn't done. The final nail was psychological. I printed a photo of her, mid-scream, from my security camera, black and white. No caption. Just her face, twisted and wild. I mailed it anonymously, once a week, to her own address. No note. No threat, just the truth, frozen on paper. Doug found the 5th one in the mailbox. He came to my door that night. He didn't knock. He just stood there, holding the envelope, shaking. I don't know what you want, he said, but she's not. Well, I stared at him. You had chances, I said, to stop her. You chose silence. She's getting help, he muttered. We're leaving. End of the month. I nodded. He turned, walked back across the street like a man, aging with each step. 3 weeks later, the house went dark. No trucks, no screaming, no Cheryl. Just quiet, and the long, steady sound of my engine starting each morning. I never touched her, never raised my voice, never crossed a line. I just held the mirror up long enough that she saw herself. And sometimes, that's the worst punishment of all.